All right. What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining me. I really do appreciate it. Loved your Aurora deck in the show match. I really do appreciate that. And what's up, Justin? Good to see you. 40 of you just waiting to see me get started. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining me. Today is kind of a big one, right? I know that we're kind of known for tier list on this channel, right? We do it a lot. We do it often. But we also, this one particularly, we're going to be here a minute because I need to basically break down everything that I possibly can as well as I can. Because there's two things happening. We have the new set, and then we have, I guess, some could maybe argue the best or the most impactful ban cycle that we've ever seen before in the game of Flesh and Blood. I guess there's a world where you could say maybe like Winter's Well or Crown of Seas is like more impactful. Well, Crown of Seas not, because obviously there was no Earth Hero playable when it happened. But it's, there's a lot of moving pieces, and we can't just place things because like new was good in the last meta. Let's place, this deck's good into new, so it goes high. We can't approach it that way. We have to basically demolish everything and just completely build everything from the ground up. And that's what we're going to do today. And what we're actively trying to do is it PSYOP time. I mean, everybody claims a PSYOP every now and again, but I think I think I've proven myself on I keep that to an absolute minimum. It is time for the chart, guys. Absolutely. And once again, thank you so much for joining me. Clay, what's up? Good to see you. So basically, like I said, we have to like tear it all down, right? And then kind of rebuild it. But with that being said, there's also going to be a lot of heroes that I'm going to discuss today that we really don't have a kind of final form yet, right? Obviously, because we're only like technically the set's not even out. We've kind of known about all the cards for a little over a week now, but like, the set's technically not out. But we've had about a week and a half in the community, and people have come up with some spicy stuff, like, basically the Verdance combo and things like that. So there's a lot of decks that haven't reached their final forms, and there's a lot of decks that I'm actively working on that have not reached their final form as well. And I'm actively going to have to try to assign a value to a hero where basically I'm assuming the hero is going to get there, and then there's also going to be some heroes where I have to assume the opposite, right? I'm just going to have to assume that the hero is not going to get there. And in those estimations is where somebody can be wildly off. So that'll be the asterisk on the stream. But I'm going to give my absolute reasoning behind it. That way, if I do end up being right or wrong, the more important aspect of it, you get to know why I'm right or why I'm wrong, which I think is the more valuable part, right? Because if you know why I came to the conclusion and something changes, you can very actively kind of, with the new information, maybe shift it yourself, right? Maybe come up with your own conclusion on why, because this is wrong, well, then this should be right, right? But instead of me just saying, oh, that's A tier, next, so on. So we're going to be here for a minute. We're going to be talking about, we're going to have to break it all down and build it back up. So that is going to be the game plan. I'm debating on delaying like 5 minutes or so to let people come in. What do we think, chat? Should we just go and get started? Or should we chat for a second? Last set was powerful. Absolutely. It damn sure was. That is a fact. Siffin's already gonna get banned that quick? That quick? I think I'm pretty close to a good Florian deck. I already put out on Twitter that I was kind of wrong in the direction that I went with Florian. I do think that the mid range is the optimal way to kind of. It's the optimal direction to take the deck. Basically. Let's get it. Let's get it. Nick says wait a few, so we're gonna go ahead and get it. Yep. We're gonna go ahead and get it because Nick's the only one that said wait, so we're gonna go ahead and start. We're gonna go ahead and start. Okay, let's go ahead and go over to the screen we know so well. Okay. And there is a couple things that I have to lead with because it's very important for the accuracy purposes of the tier list. As far as basically, there's a couple assumptions that we have to make, or baselines, right? I am assuming for the entirety of this tier list that the Dio Armory deck is valid, right? This tier list is going to be for the ProQuest season, but instead of doing, because the first 2 weeks are going to be pretty different because the Dio deck will not be out. I think the Dio deck actually releases like literally halfway into the ProQuest season. So we are going to assume that it's just out, right? All intents and purposes, Dash.io has all of her new cards. Teklo, Levia, and Celio in S tier, and stream is over. Yeah, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna. Rosetta's power level is probably exactly what Brian said, a notch below MST, but above heavy hitters. I mean, we're gonna have to see. We are gonna. Have you seen / heard about Verdance with Rainbow? Count your blessings. Yes, I have. Heard about a lot of decks with Rainbow. Count your blessing. I feel like the heroes from this set are harder to build, but have more directions. That is correct. I do agree with that notion. But I think the devs did better in this set than they've ever done on giving us the paths to the directions. There's a lot of directions we can take the deck, but I think they've done an amazing job on just like, hey, you should go this way with it, or you should go this way. You know, they've made it very apparent in the directions. They've made it very difficult to solve, which is ideal, right? Because that's just good design. So very well done by the dev team on just establishing the directions for new heroes without making it too easy to solve. It's very difficult to do that. So let's go ahead and get started. Anybody that's ever done one of these with me, basically we're going to start in WTR and work our way up and kind of tell a story about how the old heroes just don't get elo points. But in all seriousness, I just like doing it in that order for whatever reason. It's what I've always done. So that's what we're going to do. Okay. I like that they tried to also, I'm going to try my best to keep up in chat. Sometimes these get a little crazy and it starts flying a little bit, but I'm going to do my best. If there's anything you really, really want me to cover, just at TheCardGuyz in the chat and it'll kind of highlight it for me. It makes it easier for a boomer like myself. But no, it's just a lot of stuff. Good problem to have. So let's go and get started. Let's start in WTR. Okay. Let's not start there. We are going to establish our baselines, right? We need to like put a hero. I like to put a hero in S tier, a hero in B tier, a hero in D tier, and kind of tell a story on like, this is the power level we're expecting from this hero, stuff like that, right? And the first one that I'm gonna give an example to is Dash. I think Dash is in a very unique situation. I don't mean that in a good way. Make sure your hamsters are running. You're a little choppy. Yeah, it seems to have stabilized, but we'll see. But Explain why Olympia deserved the cash in there. But you have to talk to somebody else for that one. But Dash is in a very interesting spot. And it basically comes down to she gets the least amount of value. So, how do I put this correctly? Dash historically has gotten an astronomical amount of value in her game plan from the opponent either trying to guess what style she's doing, right? Either a tree frog that we've seen happening, or basically super hyper aggro in the form of like Hanabi Blaster or just traditional, even Taushar, right? We've seen it all. Where you have to kind of guess what the dash is doing and then kind of go from there and what that allows you to do. And so, however, in the current meta, I'm going to start by saying we're transitioning from a meta where Zen didn't want to block, or everybody wanted to actively disrupt / block Zen, was kind of the landscape that we were in. And I think the situation now is everybody is very divided on you can basically divide the meta in half. It's people that want to block and people that don't want to block, right? And there's not a lot of play in the middle, right? Either you're like all in one direction or not. Mid-range exists, but the mid-range is in the form of disruption, which is not really it's basically reducing the amount of cards you have to block, which gives you more cards, which allows you to do things. It's basically a different way to achieve the same result. And basically, Dash is not in a spot. Dash is beginning to be put in the spot to where she has to start guessing on what the opponent's active strategy is going to be. I'll give you an example. Florian, right? If she goes against a Florian, should she take the slow gameplay? Is it an OTK deck that's trying to do the same thing, but probably a little bit better because you just present everything at one time? Or is it going to be this Channel Mount Heroic mid-range kind of thing where it's going to be putting on a lot of pressure, right? And if you get it wrong, you're like in a bad spot. And you can't just go full aggro into it because then you'll just maybe get fatigued, right? So Dash is in a weird spot on she kind of had her identity flipped on her is kind of the situation. So that's why I'm going to place Dash in B tier. I don't think she's bad. I think she does something that's fundamentally good. It's not going to be fundamentally good for long because she has a whole lot of LO points, and she'll be about her way in a little bit, probably by the end of ProQuest season, if I had to guess, depending on how well she does, maybe. But I think that she's solid, but I think that there's going to be too many blocky decks that you can't build a straight aggro version and see a decent amount of success from it. So therefore, just her equity is basically diminished. So now we'll talk about the next one. We need to find what's a good example. I guess we don't really need a good example for D. We'll just come to the D's when we get them. But let's start with S. What's a good example of like that top tier hero? And I think it's to no surprise that we're going to talk about Enigma in this situation. Everybody knew that Enigma's worst matchup was basically Zen. And the only deck that kind of functions in the same manner that's relative to Zen would be Aurora, I believe. And another point could be made to kind of Dash IO, but Dash IO is an exception because it can be fatigued. Well, depending on the pilot. But Enigma doesn't want to see full out aggro. And a lot of that, there's just not a lot of decks that can produce, right? Like Phi's not a deck. Katsu really wasn't that bad regardless. So Enigma's in like just a pretty pretty good spot as far as there's decks that want to be slow, and that's what she's great into. There's not a whole lot of decks that are actively just wanting to kind of, you know, punish her. And if you look at Aurora, right, it does have some inconsistencies, right? You can draw that hand that if you completely unloaded your hand and, you know, utilized every single resource offensively and didn't carry over an embodiment because you're trying to force through a burn up or an electrify or a CLV trigger, basically, you know, you're in this situation where you can brick, just like rune blades do, right? And Enigma is very capable of taking advantage of those situations. There's some time where she can't do anything with that, and that's just playing Enigma. Or I'll take that back. The more defensively you build the Enigma deck, the least amount you can take advantage of those opportunities. I'll put it that way. So I'm going to put Enigma in S tier, and then we'll start our WTR forward, kind of, because Enigma is kind of the story, right? It's like, are you good into it? Can you pass the check? Is basically, and what I envision in this meta is almost every hero trying to ask themselves the same question. Is like, if you are not an aggro deck that like is very aggro, can you add a series of cards anywhere between 9 to 10 cards to your deck, mainly in the form of extenders, to help that matchup, right? Because it's not Prism, right? You don't need something to break a loop. It's not like a one piece. It's, you need to produce constant pressure. That is as your only chance at beating Enigma. If you can't do that, you will fail and you will lose the game. So I think sideboards are going to be extremely strained in this meta to target Enigma. And it may not even work, is the crazy part. I think Enigma is kind of, you know, she's in that good of a spot right now. I guess Enigma should be the litmus test. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like if Enigma well represented warriors run 3 to 6 shunts, Vambrace, I don't think it's enough. I don't think it's enough. Ask Josh why it's not enough. Okay. So let's start to get into just WTR forward, okay? And let's start with Bravo. Because why not? So I know it's not enough. Yeah, it's just not enough. It's not. You can run all those cards, and that's what I'm talking about, right? You can run all of those cards to give you that good feeling on the inside that, like, yes, I stand a chance. And then instead of losing 40 to 0, you just lose 25 to 0, and it didn't really do anything, you know. So let's talk about Bravo. On my last tier list, it was actually pretty funny. I predicted that the dark horse would be a super fatigue Bravo list that could actually fatigue Zen. And I basically stated that the Enigma representation would be so low that you would actually be able to steal the tournament if you actively achieved that goal with a Bravo list. And surprisingly, I think Pat and maybe a couple of the other runaways actually brought that list to the Pro Tour, which is actually pretty funny that I called that. And I'm glad that they found a list that could do it. I don't know overall like how well it did, but it was kind of funny that I was just like, yeah, that's the dark horse. I haven't seen anything about it, but like it was just theory based, right? I was just like, if something theoretically could do that, and somebody worked it out, then it should do fine. And apparently they did it. Does Vincent paying for life make one rune chant not prevail, destroy all ward? Yes, it does. It does. So with that being said, I'm going to present the question on there's tiers of disruption, right? There's uninteractable disruption, right? I'm talking codex, I'm talking plow under, felling of the crown, you know, a bunch of assassin techniques like mask and stuff like that. Like which is the best, right? Because it happens no matter what. And then there's on-hit effects like Erase Face and Humble and CNC and stuff like that, where it just has to go through. And then there's this thing called Crush. And yeah, it has to deal 4 damage. So your cards are, as Bravo, are not going to have any text against any of the heroes that actively want to block you, because they're going to have the tools to make sure that that never happens. You're going to be playing cards that are so below rate. And then the aggro decks that you're going to run into have an astronomical amount of armor. So therefore, your first 1 or 2 crush attacks are completely just irrelevant due to the amount of armor. So neither of them made day 2 on Fatigue Bravo. Charles then went and won the Calling on Zen. Yeah, I mean, that's probably the better choice. That's probably the better choice. So Bravo, I mean, there's no way to cut it, right? He's in a terrible spot. He has been for quite some time. I don't think anything's changed. I don't think there's a reason to spend too much time on it. There's not an archetype that, like, Fatigue Bravo doesn't even make sense anymore, because you have Verdance and Florian that can do the same thing, but actually have a game plan into decks where that's not a good idea, right? Like Enigma, as an example. So anytime you can build in an OTK kind of Fatigue platform into a mid-range deck, it's always better than typically than something that's going to be like horrendously just dedicated to a Fatigue strategy in the game of Flesh and Blood, when there are meta relevant illusionists in the game. So, all right, skip Bravo. Yeah, he's done. He's in Damien tier. I mean D tier. He's gonna go right there and probably be there for quite some time. I'm very interested in what they're gonna do as far as like support cards, right? Because I would make the argument that technically Betsy is probably like higher on the priority list, obviously by the most recent expansion slot basically being for her. And I'm very interested on whether they're just going to wait this one out or kind of give him something. I don't even know what you could give Bravo. Another Starstruck's just not going to cut it. It would have to be like, I don't know. It would have to be something. Yeah. It was just a little slip. Damien tier, I mean D tier. Okay. Let's talk about Katsu. Chat. If you know a Katsu player, do me a favor. Just check on them. Sometimes the best thing that you can do is just reach out to somebody and let them know that you're there for them. And I think it's very important to remember our Katsu fans. And now's a good time to check on those people. Because, I mean, he just got destroyed, right? Like, in every way. It was just, he literally got dishonored. That's a good way to put it, chat. It was rough. It was rough. Now, with that being said, Ira got spoiled. So if you're a Katsu fan and you're not excited about the Ira adult hero, like, that's the consolation, right? I hate it that your hero got completely gutted and there's literally no reason to play that hero. I do apologize for that. But you got something to look forward to, right? At Worlds or whenever they actually release it. And yeah, there's just no reason to play this hero. I don't know. There's no like fancy analytical math that I can show you behind it. Dishonor was the reason to play the hero, and now you can literally not accomplish the dishonor line. You just can't do it. And with the exception, I guess, of you could Mask of Many Faces, the Bonds card, but I don't even know. Can you name a card that's not legal? Is that? It's an interesting rules question. Can you name a card that's not legal in the format? I don't know. That's interesting. But Ira isn't even a ninja. I do agree with that, Kevin. I do agree with that, Kevin. But maybe there's something there that ninja players can kind of latch onto and you know, kind of take and run with it. You cannot. Okay, so yeah, literally, dishonor is like blue wounding blow. That's literally all it is. So, you know, take that for what it is. And yeah, so you literally cannot, under any condition, execute the combo, which is super unfortunate. Yeah, there's no reason to spend any more time on that. It's just, yeah, it is what it is. So let's talk about Dorinthia. Josh, earmuffs. Earmuffs, Josh. All the ninja players. I know we're talking about Dory, but hear me out. All the ninja players, or really any class that's just been like heavily nerfed by bans, I'm going to give you a recommendation. Go play Warrior. That's what Josh told me. He said, if you don't want to, if you don't want to ever be affected by bans, just go play Warrior. It will literally not impact you in any way. You know, that it's kind of true. It is literally kind of true. He literally put up beside each other. He put the new Runeblade helmet and Helmet of Sharp Eye next to each other, and it was just the funniest thing. Oh, it was absolutely hilarious. It was literally hilarious. But basically, it's actually very interesting because there's a lot of I'm gonna talk to Domblade because I don't think that dual wielding Dory is a valid archetype right now, even though that's the version that I enjoy the most of the hero. I don't think it's a valid archetype because, once again, the Earth heroes are going to take over that space. Because if you want to just try and mid-range value, they're going to say, okay, I'm going to not interact with you. I'm going to build up all my stuff and just kill you in one turn, right? They don't have to. They don't have to play your game. When Dynamos is Iron Rot, it's not that good. Just saying. Just saying. And I can't think of one warrior that got affected by a recent nerf. Technically, Cash In. Technically, you're right. You're right. I'll give you that. I'll give you that. And Olympia. Overall, the warriors are not in a good spot. They're really not. But like I was saying about Dawnblade Dory specifically, which I would like to believe is the most meta relevant build of the hero. The problem is there's a lot of decks that are just going to kind of just give you counters, right? I'm thinking like Aurora might be able to reset with armor and stuff like that, but like, you know, there's like Aurora and then maybe, you know, Dash IO, decks like that. They're just gonna be like, here, take all the counters you want. I'm gonna try to kill you. But then the other group is on the complete opposite spectrum, and I don't know how you. Oh, and you're dog shit into Enigma, no matter how you build your deck. So I don't know how you build a deck because there's very specific cards that you run if people are giving you free counters, like what is it, Dusk Path Pilgrimage, where you get to swing an additional time. You know, some cheeky stuff like that, where you get to really punish aggressive players that are not willing to give you cards. But then if that card does absolutely nothing if you play against a deck that wants to block you. So I don't know how you build one deck that solves both problems. So for that reason, I gotta say that Dory's not in an amazing spot. I don't think she's Damien tier. I mean D tier, but she's gotta be C tier. And if we're being honest, she'll probably end up in the bottom half of C tier. Just because she's not actively doing something that we want to be doing in this meta particularly. Bolton got nerfed on solar plexus builds. I mean, yes. Okay. I guess just take that comment as a joke instead, because it's not accurate at all. It is not accurate at all. Because technically, what, every hero but Dory got hit by the bans? Right? Maybe? Okay. So let's talk about Rhinard, finish up WTR. And he's in a little bit better spot. I mean, it's not hard to be in a better spot than this, but he is in a better spot because Rhinard actively serves a purpose in the meta, right? If you want to destroy enigmas, then this is a decent deck to do that, right? And you even got a new tool against aggro decks to force them to interact with you. It's not going to help, but at least you get that feeling that you're going to have a better chance in the aggro matches. You're going to get destroyed, just letting you know that. But like I said, you're going to it's just not gonna, it's not gonna do it. 269 viewers, by the way. Feels like Smash Ultimate the way everyone is. I appreciate everybody being here. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for giving me the time of day. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot. And so Rhinard, he serves a purpose, but he still has the problem he's always had. Now, I will say that once again, LSS, I mean, just phenomenal in the fact that they are identifying what the heroes are bad at, aka Rhinard's new card slots in a perfect way to force interaction in the aggro mirrors, which is his weakest link, right? Is one card going to solve all your woes? Of course not. It's going to make it a little better, sure. But, the expansion slot cards, now more than ever, I think they're being very tailored in what they're making, how they're making them. And I think they're just doing a really, really good job on kind of solving. So, and if they could just dedicate 15 expansion slot cards to Betsy, then maybe she would be playable. But I think they're doing like a really good job on the expansion slot cards. And so Rhinard serves a great purpose in the meta. Is he good enough though? I don't actually know. I'm going to go with he is a very, very specific meta call where because he's actually kind of decent into the Earth heroes, right? Anytime you force because Earth heroes by default, by being Earth, are forced to run a bunch of, basically just forced to run a bunch of shitty cards. Let's be honest. Earth blues are not amazing, hence why Autumn's Touch got banned, because this is the only good one, except for Germinate. I'll give you that. But basically, Intimidate can mean a lot of value against an Earth deck, like an astronomical amount of value, and you are good into Enigma, theoretically. So if you're good into those, right, then really you're only worried about aggro, so you're going to get absolutely dumpstered by Aurora. Some of the other Rune Blades will probably give you issues. The other brutes are going to destroy you, but everything else... Oh, Dash IO is going to destroy you. Okay, we're starting to name a lot of decks that are going to destroy you. So we're going to put Rhinard in C tier, but definitely above Dory, 100%. We're going to go C tier for Rhinard. I don't think he's bad. I think he serves a very, very specific purpose. And so we're going to put Rhinard in C tier. I do not underestimate the power of Intimidate against Earth heroes, though. Keep that factored in. Sorry, chat. Give me 1 second. We're dropping frames. Check those hamsters. Yeah, all right. I think I'm back. Okay. Someone check on those hamsters. Kyle, you got everybody in on the joke. Everybody in on the joke. It's so accurate, though. It's so accurate. Just so everybody knows, I'm coming to you guys through the power of a hotspot. Basically, is the setup that I'm working with, because I actually enjoy living, where I can own. I think we have like 16 chickens or something like that. I don't like having neighbors like right next to me. So we kind of live out there, and so we're doing with what we have is the answer, right? I can just hear Vero ready to fire off in chat. I can just hear him. So let's go ahead and move our way into Arcane Rising, which is an exceptionally relevant set right now. In the form of we've already placed one, which is pretty decent, right? B tier. And it's actually funny that somebody in chat mentioned that new sets power creep expansions, too slow. But look at Arcane Rising. Look where I'm about to put these heroes, and maybe it's not entirely true. I mean, WTR from an entire perspective, yes, it is like chicken powered hotspot. Yeehaw land. Jason, you're in Tennessee. You know what I'm talking about. Okay. All right. Let's talk about Kano. He's an interesting one, right? He just got absolutely destroyed by the bans as well. And I'm going to be 100% honest with you. Kano is one of those heroes where if you don't actively, I think anybody that has ever put Kano in a tier spot on a tier list and you're not in the Kano circle, I don't know if there is one or not, but just, typically the top players in a certain, class or talent or whatever kind of communicate often, and, they get tips and they share stuff and whatever. If you're not in that spot actively playing this hero a lot, I don't think anybody knows where to rank that hero. And that's why I had to reach out and literally ask a series of people on like where they thought this hero would be and things like that. And so I'm going to be 100% honest with you, give you full transparency. I'm kind of guessing on this one because I just don't know, especially with the changes. Obviously, you have Amphitheater seems fantastic, like a fantastic card. But is it enough? That's an interesting question. The thing that I'm concerned about for Kano is I don't know how you actively beat Double Oasis now. I just don't know. I don't know who's going to be running Double Oasis, but that's a different point, right? The point is, I think I don't know. It feels like he's in a rough spot. It really does. But not like that bad of a spot. I don't think he's doing like horrendous or anything. Definitely not D tier. But I think there's a world where he could be top of C, bottom of B. And once again, I've just consulted a couple people, just kind of asked for their opinions. This is kind of not me talking. This is just me placing based on what I heard. So I'm gonna put him kind of toward the upper end of C, probably is where I would have to go. The Kano bans only hurt mid to low tier Kanos in stack matchups. Yeah, but I think stack was kind of where you really got your value from Kano. I think. Like, I think Kano is playable. I just don't think he's the A tier hero he used to be. I honestly think he's in a very good spot. I would love to hear that thought process. Julian, you're a good Kano player, right? Kano in limited. I'm just kidding. No, Kano. Where would you put him, Julian? Where would you put him? Tomes really hurt the deck. How it was. Yet Rosetta is giving back major burst damage. I mean, yeah, but not really. And people now have more of a reason than ever in the game of Flesh and Blood to run AB. He's like B tier? What? Can still high roll, but no consistency. Eesh. All right, we might have to go bottom of B. Because this is a constructed tier list and not limited, we have to listen to Julian. We have to. What he says is correct. Always. You my support. All right. Chat, you talked me into it. Once again, when I'm shooting from the hip, I'm gonna let everybody know. I'm not trying here to deceive anybody or anything like that. But Kano's just one of those where you just don't know unless you're like invested in it. Simple as that. So let's talk about Azalea. Azalea is actually a very interesting one where she has historically been very, very good against Rune Blades, right? And obviously Rune Blades are going to be somewhat relevant in this meta with that new headpiece. They kind of have to be. Are they going to dominate the meta? That's to be seen. But I think they'll be at least, I wouldn't be surprised if Rune Blade made up, 15% of the world's meta or something like that. And Azalea has historically been pretty good into the Rune Blades. However, call me crazy, I think that's beginning to change. Azalea or Aurora has a bunch of ways to punish through red in the ledger, making it literally a textless card. Play a bunch of instant cards, whatever, pump, and then play an attack or something along those lines, or get value via embodiment, whatever the case may be. She has a lot of ways to convert the cards in hand to value, not using an action point, which is a great way to combat Azalea. And also better fridge, right? Our face purgatory basically gets to deny her an arsenal once a game, which is one less dominate or reduce her consistency. And yeah, if we can couple that with a Warmongers, we literally shut her down for an entire turn. And so I don't think she's as good as you think into the Rune Blades. However, and I don't think she's ever been amazing into Vincent, to be fair. Viserai, she's usually pretty good into. I'll give you that one. But surprisingly, I think it would surprise a lot of people when I say that I think Azalea is actually pretty good into Enigma. Yes, it's on the back of Murkmire, but also just the pure aggression associated with Azalea is exactly how you want to be tackling Enigma, right? And if you can ever couple that with a good arrow like Murkmire, then it's kind of like a match made in heaven. We need a list for Nathan to play. Oh, no. Create a tier between B and C called Kano and put him there alone. I mean, that's kind of how it felt, to be honest. That's kind of how it felt. So I think Azalea's great. I think just Azalea does something that is fundamentally powerful, right? And she's good into what we are currently saying is the deck to beat, right? Or the thing you want to check off of your list, however you want to put it. I'm not necessarily saying she's the best deck in the format, but she's pretty good in that matchup. She can go toe to toe with the aggro decks. Earth might give her some problems. Historically, I think Azalea's been really good at fatiguing, but in life gain, if you look at it from a mathematical approach, is the perfect counter to dominate, because dominate says you're going to take a bunch of damage no matter how many cards you have in your hand. There's nothing you can do about it. But if you can convert those cards to life gain, then there's no, as long as the life gain is approximately the same in value as blocking with your cards, then there's no theoretical difference between an arrow with dominate and an arrow without dominate. So life gain is the counter to dominate because it allows you to theoretically block with every card in your hand. And I think that she's going to run into some problems. Also, with Rune Blades on the rise, that's going to incentivize decks to actively run Warmongers, just to make Vero man. But Warmongers is going to be in the format because of the Rune Blades, and that's just something that she's going to have. She's kind of hitting a stray on that one. Nobody's really running it for her. I guess kind of they are, but it's not what you want to be seeing. I don't think it's as good as people make it out to be as far as like Warmongers into Azalea, but it is disruptive and it does produce value. So I want to put Azalea in S tier. However, I'm going to put her probably at the top of A, and that's solely because of getting hit by the stray of the Rune Blades coming in and getting hit with Warmongers. I literally, that's the one thing that's keeping her out of S tier for me. And I think the Earth Heroes might be able to go toe to toe with her. Although the Earth Heroes kind of have to solve another problem, but we'll get to that when we get there. Can't do nothing. Went to drop from the tournament, named Peace, couldn't do it. Oh man, that was so funny. Do you think the upcoming meta where margins between tiers are pretty slim? So I think the margins between the top tiers are slim, but the margins between the bottom tiers are astronomical. Sorry, WTR fans. Like the difference between a B tier hero and a C and below is like, it's pretty big. It's pretty big. But the difference between B, A, and S, like those are very small. So it's definitely weighted toward the top. So let's go ahead and talk about Viserai. Now, this is a tough one. I've been spending a decent amount of time on this hero and trying to figure out the direction in which I think this hero should go, because there just are so many of them. And this is one conclusion that I've come up with. If you are playing Viserai or you plan to try and play Viserai, if you take the old deck, Mauve into Shrill, into Rosetta, or what would now be Reaping Blade. So basically it's a 2-cost attack into 1-cost weapon structure. Or you have the other variant where you flip the cost structure into a 1-cost attack or in a 2-cost weapon, aka Nebula Blade. If you make either one of those builds of Viserai, I hate to break it to you, it's not going to work. It's not going to work, and I'll explain why. When I saw cards like Snuff Out and stuff like that, and all this discard disruption that Viserai got a hold of, Succumb, all these different cards, and I was like, holy cow, this is going to be so good. There's going to be a deck like Zen that just is going to say no blocks. I'm going to just destroy them. The problem is I kept playing game after game after game, and they were blocking. They were blocking. And so all it was was basically I devalue Mauve because I'm throwing the Mauve attached to an attack that has less power than Shrill, if you're on the 1-cost version, but then distributing some of that value to Nebula Blade, which is okay, but it's not like you're not breaking the math of the game, right? So if you're taking that approach with Viserai, I'm going to tell you now, you're not going to see a lot of success with it. You're not going to be that good into Enigma. You're not going to be good into Azalea, or it's not where you want to be. However, I'm currently working on a Viserai list that does not do the weapon cost curve math or anything like that. I haven't finished it. It's still in like the theory stage. I don't know if there's enough cards that quite support it, but I think there is. I really think there is. I'm just having to dig a little bit deeper in the card pool than I'm used to with old Rune Blades. And so it's taking a little bit more time. And so I think that list, which I don't want to disclose yet because one, it's not proven yet, and two, I might play it. Who knows? But basically, I think that, and it's even different. It's even different from basically Turtle Burst, right? And it's not OTK either. So I think there's a whole nother version of Viserai that I'm trying to solve. I just don't know if it slots into this meta or if it quite has enough cards. I think it does. I'm like 80% sure it does. But if that list works, and it works the way I think it does, I think Viserai can find his footing in the meta where the current build of Mavrian attack, swing weapon, just isn't enough. It's just not enough. Even when you put in a Revel, it's just not doing enough. Simple as that. Either you're not getting value from your on hits because they want to block, or the aggro decks, even through all those on hits, can probably out produce you. And basically, they also have fridges, and that's, it is what it is. So I am going to place Viserai on the basis of I think the new deck's going to work. I think it'll work. I'll give you a little hint on the Viserai list. It runs a lot more non-attacks than it used to. I'll leave it there. I'll let your imagination go on it. But I think that Viserai will either land in the top of B tier or maybe the bottom of A. I think he'll be in the meta. I think he will be, which is from the last spot he was in. I think he was in D tier, actually. I think there was literally no reason to play that hero before the set came out. And let's just pause for a second and kind of, I think this is like the second time where we've had like I don't know, an Azalea-esque kind of situation where a hero was just not doing good, right? And just the right set came out with the right amount of cards to really just push that hero up. So if you're one of these, if you main one of these heroes down here, don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. There's gonna be a set that comes out that's really gonna push that. Unless you're a Katsu player, then you should give up. But if you're any of the other three, then you. That's so mean. Oh, that's so mean. But basically, if there's gonna be a set that comes out that's really gonna push some heroes up that are kind of now Viserai did have, the starting point of an absolutely busted hero ability, which is a good thing to start with. But all I'm saying is be patient. Be patient. Okay, let's talk about how to laugh out of me. Oh man. Come to fight Viz. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I do like that card. I've played it many a time in Briar. Many a time. I thought we were friends. How you know that hero's so bad? Okay, let's talk about Bolton. Bolton. I think the one thing that Bolton is missing to really take him to the next level is like 3 to 4 more absolutely 100% dedicated legendary card slots that nobody can play except him, that completely don't move his position in the meta whatsoever. I think if he got like 2 to 3 more of those, I think he'd really be in the spot that would. No, I'm just kidding. I'm being sassy today, chat. I'm just making a joke about Spirit of Arena and then the Bolana helm, and you know he's gotten a lot of like dedicated legendaries this hero specifically, and an armory deck. He's gotten a lot of love, and ooh, like combo Bolton and plow under is just that like you thought harpoon was bad, but imagine just your win con going to the bottom of your deck. And it's just like, I enjoyed Combo Bolton. I played a little bit of it last season, right? And, you know, I enjoyed the play style. I really did. But I think this is the worst environment ever that, like, I think Combo Bolton is literally worse than it has ever been. I'm very confident in that statement. It is just horrendous, right? You can't kill Enigma, right? Enigma's gonna kill you while you do it. You don't want to play against Azalea. You don't want to play against a Rune Blade that can set up on you right back. Or just plow under your combo piece. I mean, there's just so much hate for that deck. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, right? Like it is what it is. And then the Raiden plan, right? Either one of two things is going to happen. Either you're going to have to play in a manner to where you're navigating the circumstance of them not interacting with you and giving you your hero power, or they're always giving you the hero power, but like you're not getting anything through kind of situation. It's a very tough spot to be as a Bolton player, plain and simple. I don't think he needs more cards. I think he has good enough cards. I think the meta just needs to happen with the meta in a specific way for Bolton to become relevant again. But right now, I'm going to have to put him probably as bad as the top of D tier. Is probably where he will end up. I think Raiden Bolton is like a functional deck. Like it does a thing, but yeah, like IO's gonna outrace you and Aurora's gonna outrace you. I mean, it can get ugly really quick. So that's where we're gonna put Bolton. Okay. Levia. If there's any hero that is responsible for making my tier list inaccurate, it's this hero. I, as you all know, am a Levia like believer. I think the hero does something that is like fundamentally powerful. I think the hero does something that is relevant in the meta. It kind of checks all the boxes. The one thing that I don't really care about the new card. I know it's interactions. I know you can hit Beast Within, and I know you can like autofill the grave and remove the agency away from your opponent. I get all of those things. with the Call to the Grave card and how it is a boon for Levia. But I would make the argument that it's not as high of a boon as the negative aspect of taking Artivore out, especially in a meta where Enigma is running around as much as she is, right? Because the Enigma situation, Levia has to have that thing that pushes, right? Like Artivore filled that void. You needed something with Go Again. You needed that on-demand thing in your deck that wasn't Blood Rush Bellows or something else that really just allowed you to pressure the board. And taking 3 copies of that out, it just can't be a good thing in this meta. So I'm gonna knock down Levia a peg, just a peg, not two. Although I'm a believer, this hero's just been getting me in trouble because Ethan does the casting or the production and not actively playing. So I'm going to probably put Levia at the top of B tier, but I'll leave an asterisk. If Ethan retires production and plays in a tournament, I'll move her to A. Okay, I'll give you that. I am a believer. I've just gotten in a lot of trouble by putting that hero high lately. Even though she got I don't think Call to the Grave is good enough. I just don't think it does enough. Well, yeah. Levia doesn't use Artivore now because it's banned. That's probably one. So this is why you deem me. Yeah, maybe, gotta get the recon. I do that every tier list. I'm like, I wonder what this person thinks. I'm not looking for like secrets or anything like that. I just, want to get people's opinion that spend a lot of time on the heroes and yeah. Been listening for the past hour and I love the content, man. But love of God, there's no X in especially. Oh, see, that's the Alabama education showing. That's what that is. Levia is easy A. Deck was fine without Artivore. I mean, yeah, but what is the new Levia card is Called to the Grave. The one where you just search your deck and put a card in the discard. No, I'm just messing with you. Yeah, of course. How does Fi become world champion? World champ. Yeah, what a world. Speaking of Fi, this is one that we need to talk about next. We need to talk about Fi. Let's see. Especially. Roll Tide. No. Levia is the best deck in the game. No bad matchups. It's just all insta win. That sounds like the community. I see my confusion. I thought you meant there was a new card. No. It's not a Shadow Brute card. It is just a card that she can use to her advantage, which means she got a card, right? So Fi, I need to edit the tier list real quick to accommodate for Fi. I need to add below, and I need to exit out of this. I need to go PV. Wait. Yep. PVE. The Fab community has been asking for PVE for years. And I'm here to tell you, chat, it's here. All you have to do is play Fi and play head jabs. the first PvE hero in Flesh and Blood is Fi right now. that is what's happening. That is literally what's happening. He is in a terrible spot. Blazing hot take, Fi is better than Katsu. I think just because you can McGinty Lord of Wind makes you better than than Fi. And the combo's not even that good. It's like, because you can actively play Whelming Gustwave, you're a better deck. And underwhelming Gustwave. So yeah, Fi is like, if there's anybody from Talishar watching, do me a favor. Is there any way that we could change the bot hero in Talishar from Data Doll to Fi? Can we make that happen? Is there anybody from Talishar in the chat? Because I think that would be the best meme ever. Just all of a sudden, everybody's like, yeah, I want to go in Talishar and like do my gold fishing and all that, and then boom, just Fi pops up there. Oh my goodness. That would be absolutely hilarious. So yes, I legitimately think that Fi could be, it probably is the worst hero in the game right now. Actively worse than Arachne. I think he's that bad. The disrespect is legendary. Oh man. Yeah, literal dumpster fire. I agree, chat. I agree. How is Fi catching more heat than Arachne? Because Arachne is way more playable than Fi. Don't get me wrong, Arachne's not that great. But like, I mean, you can't kill somebody with head jabs. You just can't do it. And Art of War was like all of your throughput. It was like you were just like doing the song and dance game, 13 damage a turn. And like Aurora just does the same thing, has better armor. I mean, just better throughput. Everything attacks for 4 instead of 3. Like it's just it's so bad. Yeah, exactly. Arachne has Codex of Frailty. What does Fi have? What, Lava Burst? A 0 for 5? Cute. I'll just fuse an Arcanic Shockwave and not have to go to Chain Link 1 billion. Oh man. Yeah, Fi's gonna have to give it up. But if there's somebody at Talishar watching, or somebody that can reach out and just clip that portion and send it to him if somebody doesn't mind. And I think that would be hilarious if we could get the bot to be Fi. That would be absolutely hilarious. Okay. Let's talk about Arachne. I am in a weird spot with Arachne. I think he is more relevant in this meta than he was last meta, right? Because Zen wasn't just like blowing him up out of nowhere. Let me get some water real quick. Arachne specifically, right? There are a few decks in the format where they actively, there's a lot of decks in the format that have very specific cards that they need to execute something that they're trying to accomplish. I'll give you an example. Germinate for Florian, Rampant Growth for Verdance. You have Arc Lightning for Aurora. You know, like specializations have kind of taken on a whole new meaning in that it's like your whole game plan, not all the time, but a lot of the time, revolves around those cards. And if Arachne can banish those cards, you have a chance to win the game. However, if you banish any of the 57 other cards, probably going to lose. So, um, so what I'm saying is that if you want to win, what what is 3/60? It'd be 1/20. That'd be 150. So if you want to win, %5 of your games, which would be banishing those three, you should play Arachne. That's mathematically that's what it is. But I'm kind of just memeing on a little bit. But like he does a thing, right? I don't think it's well built enough. The armor, don't get me wrong, the armor's powerful. The one that they got has the spell void and arcane barrier. I think it came a little late. I think they kind of needed that when Kano was kind of running rampant, and I don't think Kano is going to be a huge problem in the meta. So, message the tallying tabs about the 5. I appreciate that. But Arachne's just not in a good spot. He's kind of been in that same position that he has been for quite some time. Just there's 2 reasons not to play him, specifically Azuri and New. And yeah, it just they being strong but outdated. You know, Sam, that's really well said. That's like really well said. The game is evolving in a way to where just spell void is where you need to be if you're trying, because just think about it, right? Like if you had the choice to wear just armor, right? Which is what spell void in. Spell void is armor for arcane. And then no, would you ever run? I'm pretty sure there is a piece of regular equipment that says if you pitch into it, it blocks, right? It's Vambrace, right? Isn't Vambrace say that if you pitch into it, you can like block with it for 1 or something like that? Like if it didn't have the other effect on it, that wouldn't be playable. So why is AB playable, right? It's kind of the same, same thought process. A little bit to the extreme, obviously, because you do need the ability. I think AB1 still has its place. I think it's valid. But anything above that, I think you really need to start, unless you like it's part of your game plan, right? Like you're trying to fatigue a wizard or something like that. You really got to start asking yourself, what are you actively doing? But yeah, Ironhide, good example. Good example. Thank you. So I think to sum that up, I think we spent way too long on Arachne because I mean, just no change. I'm gonna put him above Katsu because he can at least, maybe banish something that's good and kind of steal a game or two that way. Maybe, possibly. Rampart, that's a good Rampart. No, Rampart is a good example. Let's go ahead and go to the next. Azuri or Riptide? Let's go ahead and hit Azuri first. Now, Azuri took down Pro Tour, right? So she has to be good, right? She has to be good if she took down the Pro Tour. I would beg the question of what has she done since? I think the Azuri situation was a very unique situation. You had an amazing player, Shoma, that took the deck while it had been off the radar for so long, and people kind of were definitely under practiced on the play patterns. And he also, I'll give credit where credit's due, he took a very unique approach and made it very aggressive leaning, but being able to block very efficiently as well. Whereas I think Azuri list in the past were probably going a little bit too defensive. Like the small stuff like Blue Infect really go a long way. They really, really do. So that when you actively get value if you don't want to make the switch. And he made a lot of innovations in that regard. So very well done. The problem was after that, people practiced into Azuri, and I think a lot of points got lost by people refreshing that matchup experience. And I think the hero is solid. I think it does a strong thing. I think New is still better at what assassins are actively trying to do. Uh, you need Jim high roll your matchups. Yeah, like, and you're still really, really bad into Enigma, of course. Um, Rune Blades can get kind of iffy, right? Like your 6 attacks become a lot less scary when you have Face Purgatory, right? Because the unique thing about Missouri would present situations where they would have no arsenal. You would attack with a stealth card and then hold a 6 for the swap in. Rune Blades now have the option because you used to be able to punish people because they would block it and then you would just arsenal the 2 for 6, right? And you basically get a free card's worth of value if they block it for 6. But now you can face Purgatory and say, you know what? I'm going to block 6 and force you to do it, right? And then get them off an arsenal, which means they need to take more damage to make their pivot. And it's kind of not a great situation. So I think the deck is strong. I think it's solid, but I think it just isn't quite doing enough in the current meta. So I'm going to put Azuri below Levia, but above Dash. Solid deck, very, very solid deck. Any skilled pilot. Once the Dash IO Armory deck comes out, Azuri goes up in the meta because she's one of the few decks that can combat that list. Right now, she's having a really rough time. That's fair. I do agree with that. I do agree with that. Okay. Let's go. I can't wait till we talk about Dash IO. That one's going to be a doozy. That one's going to be a doozy. Let's talk about Riptide, Roll Tide. Okay. Riptide surprisingly has a very good Enigma matchup, right? If they swing with their weapons, then it turns all the traps on. If they don't have other ward to cover up the trap damage, then you just get to negate the attack and you get to clear the board in the process, which is exactly what you want to be doing. However, a very skilled Enigma does know how to navigate those situations and basically kind of reduce the value that you can extract from those traps. But I still would make the argument that it's probably still favored. However, I think he's lost a lot of equity in the aggro matches. He used to be a very valid pick as far as like aggression goes. Used to be like a really good contender on, you know, the output, the numbers, all of those things. I think he just doesn't make the cut in that regards. I think that you're going to lose a lot of your aggro matches that you wouldn't have lost before because I just don't think the traps are good enough. They're too situational. The earth decks are going to eat you apart because they just not going to trigger any of them. And yeah, then they have this OTK plan built in while they're actively fatiguing you. So you have to adapt your play style, and then they get to punish you while you're adapting it. It's a very difficult spot to be in. So I think Riptide is like a valid aggro hero. I don't think that he's super amazing. And trust me on this, chat. I'm an expert. I played this deck for 24 hours. So when I say he's B tier, he's got to be B tier. Just a middle of the road, right? Like does a thing, super solid, but just isn't good enough. It just isn't good enough to really hang out with those top tier decks. But there is a valid angle that you could take to say, if I want to build my deck to beat Enigma, and then I'll kind of worry about the other problems as they come. I think it's a decent choice. I think it's a valid thing to bring. Now we move on to Prism. Prism. So Prism, it is to the knowledge that's been bestowed upon me by other people. This is another one of those heroes where it's kind of like that Kano situation. You really have to lean on people that that know a lot more about the hero than you do, because a lot of it goes so far outside of just the theory based stuff, and uh, Damien will find a way. I doubt it. I doubt it. The problem with losing tome is you reduce the consistency on the loop. I think you can still achieve it, but it's just so unreliable and it probably breaks pretty soon after you establish the loop. Uh, so the mono rapture build, I think, is the future of the deck. I think everybody very easily probably came to that conclusion that that's the way that the hero needs to be built. But with that being said, it just it becomes so telegraphed. You have to run cards that are super inconsistent, like Angelic Wrath and Celestial Reprimand. And it really just makes the deck this inconsistent. It almost turns it into like what Runeblade used to be, where it kind of inconsistent. It does one thing, does it kind of good. It's a solid aggro deck. You're gonna be spitting out on hits. You can do some fancy stuff, but if you, the problem with the Prism situation is if she ever becomes like super relevant, she's just gonna get hated out by poppers, right? Because it's so easy to just throw some sevens in, or whatever the case may be. And yes, you can, draw your reprimand or whatever. But what if you don't? What if you don't? It's really going to kind of, uh, really gonna hurt you. 94 is my goat. If you know, you know. That was a good one, Nick. That was a good one. Okay, so I think Prism's in a little rough spot. And this is coming from somebody that put her in S tier, the last tier list. I thought she was in a really good spot. But just losing the loop really makes the deck kind of one dimensional. There's a lot of heroes that don't mind running poppers, a lot of the earth heroes. It's just not where you want to be. It's not where you want to be. So I am going to say that she's probably upper C tier. That's kind of where I'm thinking, where she's like this solid aggro deck, but she's going to have consistency issues built into having to run the popper counters. And I just don't think you really want to be there. I really don't think you want to be there. You can be there. I just don't recommend it. I really, really don't recommend it. If she becomes relevant, we slay. That's fact. That's a fact. I would not run that card, but yes, I would agree. I would never run that card. Oh, goodness. Yeah, the one hero, speaking of which, that has unpreventable damage. Yeah, let's give him a way to blow up ward. Sheesh. The art's good, but the rest of it, I don't know. Okay, let's talk about Vinny. This one's going to take a second because during my last stream, said that she might be the best Runeblade. And God, I'm gonna get roasted. I'm gonna I hear the purple Discord. I'm gonna get roasted. I don't know if that's the case. She's good. She's really good. Like, she's really good. But there's a couple things that I'm still trying to work out that like I have a strategy, the strategy works, but it's getting there has been a little rougher than I expected it to be. And I'm not giving up. I think that there's still a way. I think her position in the meta is very good as far as she's actually pretty good into Azalea, believe it or not. She is good into Enigma. However, it's not like this auto win that a lot of people believe it to be. You actually have to run, I believe, sideboard slots to beat Enigma because you have to shadow non-attack density in the deck or in the game is it's pretty bad. To be honest, they're not the cards you actively want to be running. So basically, what you have to do is you have to put cards that you would never put in your deck in your sideboard to up your shadow non-attack density for that matchup, so you can continuously clear, right? Because if you only have say 6 to 9, like a normal list would have, then you're gonna run into an issue of where you just run out and then they build the ward and then you really have a problem. So we got all the balls in chat. We ball. About to be a boycott, a Cropper boycott on the horizon. No, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, chat. I think she's good. I think she's really good. Yep, and against the Earth cards, you obviously help them put the Earth cards in banish. I don't think that's that huge of a deal, because the heroes are kind of built in a way. I guess it does allow some sideboarding edge where you can kind of side some Earth cards out because they're not great and put in some sideboard cards, knowing that you're going to kind of get that or decompose cards, if you will. Seems a little risky though. So as far as placement, like I said, she's really good. She's really good. I think she definitely deserves a spot in A. 100%. I think these two spots are interchangeable. I don't know if one is better than the other. I'm not entirely sure on which one's better. So I'm just going to say that these are interchangeable. But she definitely is A tier. She could end up toward the lower end of A tier. That's in, because we have a lot of heroes that we still have to look at, chat. And like some of them are like powerhouses, right? We got like Olympia and Betsy. I just don't know if can't even say with a straight face. I don't know if Vincent's going to be able to hold that spot so close to the left side of A. I just don't know if it's going to happen. I can't think of a game where I have ever ran out of shadow non-attacks and Enigma wasn't dead. So I don't know how to answer that while not split. Enigma decks might take a different direction than what we're used to. I'll answer it that way. Woo, okay, you can keep my sub. Okay, good to know. No, she's definitely good. If she works her way down toward the bottom half of A, don't be upset. But I think she's definitely A tier. There's just some things that she's got to work out. She's gotten way better at playing the game without the opponent interacting with her, which was her number one flaw. I'm gonna be honest. The biggest issue that I've had is throttling. Before it was like I would never have the rune chance to play the second attack, but the attack was there. Now I have all the rune chance in the world, but don't have the attack there. So I'm like looking for ways to re-throttle and like looking at cards like Shadow of Ursa and some other stuff to where like I need to be cranking cards in the banish zone so I can actively play them out because I have so much rune chant generation. And which when the very first Vincent deck I ever built had Shadow of Ursa and it was absolute dog shit. But now there's actually a valid strategy. I don't see how Vincent is doing anything that puts her at a higher tier than Levia. I think she has a better Azalea matchup. I think she has a better Enigma matchup. And I think she has a better Dash.io matchup. That is what my basis is. Yeah, I think Ursa is good now. I don't think it used to be though. I don't think it used to be. Yeah, I just as the point, right? It's like the disruption that Vincent has, I think, is the biggest thing, and you actually get a lot more game into the Earth heroes because they're actively wanting to block with you, or make trades, do their 2 for 8 shenanigans and all that stuff, which is actively what you want to be doing. So, okay, let's go ahead and move on. Let's talk about what I think is the most important deck to talk about. More important than any hero that we have discussed. Chat, I don't know if you've played against a decent list with the cards that are coming out. But let me tell you, it does some of the craziest shit I've ever seen. And the craziest part is it doesn't even take like a unique, you just slap it in a bunch of boost cards and it just works. Spark of Genius in Cerebellum is, I'm going to put it like this, chat. I think it's a stronger combination than CNC Pummel. I legitimately think it is. It just, you get so much card draw, even though they're moving away from card draw. It was, when I saw the deck move, I was like, holy, like this is something. I don't know what it is, but this is something. And the more refined it gets, it's scary. It's like actually scary. So, chat, I think there's a good chance that Dash.io could be the best deck in the game. I really believe that. I don't know if she will be the best, but what I can promise you is she's gonna make the other decks work for that spot. I mean, really work for that spot. The only comfort that I can find is cards like Erase Face, stuff that blows up instances. Plow Under is absolutely phenomenal against this deck because you do need to do a little bit of setup, right? Like it's not, you don't just get to like puke the cards out, although sometimes it does work that way. Did 2 new cards really change her that much? It did. In fact, it was actually just 1 card. The other card's cool. Don't get me wrong. Like it's another 0 for 60 like that. Don't get me wrong. It's cool. It's an upgrade. But like not even factoring that in. It's, I'm telling you, chat. It's coming. It's happening. It is happening. Whether you like it or not, that armory deck's going to come out. And if I'm not mistaken, it's 2 weeks of ProQuest season. The armory deck comes out, then 2 weeks of ProQuest season. There's going to be such a divide. Maybe not the first week because it's like literally coming out immediately because people need to like actually find the deck and like physically build the deck with the cards and get everything together. But the last week of ProQuest season, I believe it is my educated guess that it is going to be astronomically different than the first 3 weeks. Especially different than the first 2, like way different. Because I think this deck is going to show up and blow up. Let me get caught up in chat real quick. Hero is beyond broken. Yeah, it literally just it's just insane. The things that I've seen this deck do. I'm telling you. All I gotta say is that if you plan on going to Worlds, have a plan. Either play this or have a plan, because I'm telling you, it's actually wild. I think I'm gonna put it as the best deck in the format out of what we have so far. I think these are interchangeable. But man, I'm if you haven't seen it, I'm telling you, get some popcorn, because if there's any Zen fans still around, and you're looking for a new home, may I introduce you to my friend Dash.io. It's gonna do some good stuff. It's gonna do some good stuff, and I'm happy for LSS. They're gonna sell a lot of those armory decks. They're gonna sell a lot of them. Are we talking Zen broken? That's a very good question. I'm gonna say no. I don't think it's Zen broken, because there are, like I said, there are tools that you can utilize to really kind of combat what the deck's trying to do. Dash.io is more broken than Zen. All right, Sam. All right. I was trying to keep everybody from panicking, Sam, but since you said it, no, there's some points in the game where I'll be 100% honest, it kind of feels like it. But over the games I've played/seen, I personally don't think it's as bad. Why is the hero bad now compared to the armory deck? So it's just like the deck's not bad now. It's like a good aggro deck that does a good thing. It just doesn't have enough throughput, and the Cerebellum just like literally takes it way up, like way up, and just literally really hits the gas. Like really hits the gas. I think that Dio will be even faster than Zen. Probably not as broken. Yeah, so I agree. Like it might be faster on a consistent basis, right? But I don't think it'll be better, because let's be honest, like Dash.io's equipment suite is not as good. It's fair. It's like a good equipment suite to have, but it's not anything compared to what Zen had. There are disruptive tools that you can utilize. Erase face, kind of, stops it in its tracks. Then you have Arsenal disruption, because the Arsenal is very, very, very important to that deck. You gotta set up those high octanes and stuff like that. And then also fatigue, right? Like there is a world. Now, I will say that window closes very quickly, the better player that you're playing against. But at a Pro Quest level, I think Dash.io is very fatigable, like very, very fatigable. But if you start looking at Worlds and Pro Tour competitive players, then is it? Yes, but they might get you, is all I'm saying. They might get you. So I just want to say, chat, you've been warned. You've been warned. Let's keep talking Maxx. Let's talk Maxx. Maxx is an interesting one. Maxx is solid into Enigma, right? It kind of makes that check mark, right? It's kind of a question that we're asking ourselves every time we see it here. We're like, can we get over the, that speed bump, if you will? Yeah, Weakest Link. That's another good example of cards that just really, really put in work against that hero. No, instead Zen started the game with 9 unplayable cards. Oh man, that's gonna be a deck. Dash IO. Tell you what. So Maxx does something that's also very fundamentally powerful. If the meta ever has a shift that favors Enigma and the Earth hero, so if like I'll present a situation. If the Earth heroes and Enigma specifically find a way to combat Dash IO and like they found some consistent way to beat it, whether it be disruption, fatigue, whatever. We're just gonna say they did it, right? Maxx becomes very, very good because you're gonna be absolute dog shit into Dash IO. But you will then take that dog shit and light it on the porch, light it on fire on the porch of the Enigma and Earth Hero players. Because it literally it does everything that they don't want, right? They have the explosiveness, they have consistent damage while you're actively setting it up, which is kind of where it comes into play with Enigma. And it kind of answers that question. However, with that being said, it really is iffy in regards to aggro. I think Aurora's going to absolutely stomp Maxx. I think that Azalea has always been an issue for Maxx. I think Vinny's going to give Maxx a problem. So I think that Rhinard or I think Maxx gets in that Rhinard situation where if you're really trying to just target. Nathan, what are you saying? My bad. So basically, it's just a meta call. It's that simple. Rhinard was really good into Enigma and the Earth Heroes. I think Maxx is basically in that spot, but you're a little bit better into some of the other heroes, whereas Rhinard just kind of falls flat into any aggro deck in the game. So I think that bringing Maxx would be the same idea as bringing Rhinard. It's just a better deck. It's that simple. And so it's tough. It's actually tough. I think Maxx has to go here. Like a very solid meta call. How much does Maxx suffer if he will lose pistol? That is a great question that I haven't even considered. Geo burns random cards off the top of the deck for the upside, while Zen always tutor for the strongest card every guarantee. I agree. I agree. So I think Maxx will be a very relevant meta call, but you're going to be gambling a little bit in gym pairings as far as that goes. If you do decide to bring Maxx, best of luck to you. Best of luck. And there's actually another deck that does the exact same situation, but to a smaller portion of the meta, but more extreme. So if Earth heroes ever dominate the meta, I'm telling you now, this is the hero you want to be playing. With all the Rune Blade and Hyper Aggro Dash, doesn't that take Enigma down a notch? Enigma is bad into a very specific type of aggression. It has to be very consistent, it has to have a lot of breakpoints, and you technically don't want to go super wide. I tell you what, let me present a situation and you tell me if something's super favored or not. What happens when Dash IO plays, high octane, right? And they get 4 action points. But then earlier in the turn, Enigma played a card called Dense Blue Mist, where everything gets -1. What are you gonna fire your pistol for 4 times? Enigma has a lot of tools that people are not considering because they didn't have a wide application before. That really just it really punishes certain things, right? And so I say that all to say do not write Enigma off, even with the relevance of Runeblade and hyper aggressive mech. You're going to win if Enigma goes down 2 cards to play Dense Blue Mist. I mean, are you? You can just tune it counter Dense Blue Mist. Or hear me out. What if she plays 2 on your high octane turn? I'm just saying she has the tools. She has the tools. So, like I was saying about Teklovossen, if hero or not hero, if Earth ever dominates the meta, this is the hero that you want to play. It kind of has the same matchup spread as Maxx, but you're dog shit into Enigma, right? And you're still bad into most of the aggressive decks, but you're like hyper good into the Earth heroes, like really good into the Earth heroes. So it's just an extreme version. I don't think there's a lot more to say. I think he's like kind of in that Rhinard spot where he's trying to take a meta call, but I don't think the Earth heroes have proven the need for Teklovossen. But if Earth ever dominates, this is who you're gonna call. That's the one. Yeah, brother in arms, so many different things. We are assuming that Dash.io has the Armory deck. That is the assumption. All right. So I think he's super relevant or relevant in a certain situations that has not proved itself, basically. Once that happens, once the Earth Heroes have a breakout, maybe we see more Teklovossen, but right now I can't justify like recommending him for ProQuest season or anything like that. Then we go to Betsy. Betsy got a really good card in the expansion slot. However, I'm just gonna keep my theory. This is a limited hero. I don't know how else to put it. Um, I think that this hero was just designed to solve a limited problem, and then they were like, "Yeah, we'll put it back together later," kind of situation. And I don't mean that in a bad way, right? Like limited is one of those limited has to be solved immediately. You can solve CC and meta relevancy at a later point, right? Azalea is a great example of that, right? Azalea came off the line. She was the worst hero in the game for the first 3 years almost. And then boom, a set came out and she was really good. So yeah, Betsy's new card could literally say you could start with that card in hand in every game, and she still would just be, yeah. I don't know what else to say. Like it's just a limited hero. Like I don't know. Better than Katsu. Better than Katsu, but what is it? What is it? Betsy is replacement Bravo. We just haven't lost Bravo yet, so there's no reason. I mean, yeah, but I don't know. I don't know. Who are you gonna call Earth Busters? I like that. I like that. Okay, let me go ahead and talk about Cassai so all the Cassai fans can get mad at me when I explain why their hero is bad. That's a good way to enter into a hero discussion. Look, if there's any Cassai fans, I beg the question of how are you approaching the meta, right? Because like Cassai has two routes that she can kind of take. She can go super defensive, grindy, or she can go aggressive via on hits and, kind of like force your opponent into making decisions or blocking a little bit more, which allows you to do the grindy stuff at no opportunity cost. So you're basically doing the same thing, you're just achieving it through a different avenue. And like you're not fast enough. You're not the aggro decks are too good for like Aurora as an example, right? Dynamos is not going to save you. Your Blade Runner is not going to save you if you're producing 16 damage every turn. Not only that, but like 16 damage. The best way that you can actually attack a deck like Dual Wielding Warrior is arcane damage. And the reason specifically split damage, because the warrior decks typically run, much like every deck, the absolute least amount of blues they absolutely need to consistently do their 2-swing exchange. So arcane damage usually makes it through 90% of the time, which is kind of going against the strategy that you're trying to employ if you're trying to have a grindier match. And I just don't see the point. If we still had cash in, I'd be like, okay, maybe there's this hyper aggressive like cash in build where like you can begin to think you can compete on the aggro axis. I'd be like, okay, I'll entertain the conversation. But if you were to walk up to me now and say like, yeah, she can keep up with aggro, I I don't know what to tell you. But it's just not there. It just isn't there. Which, in fact, the story of Warrior is actually it's actually insane. The fact that it went from 0 to hero to 0 all in a 3-month span. It's actually wild. It's actually wild. We've never seen that in Flesh and Blood. I don't believe. And there were no bans. There were no bans that affected Warriors, and they just went doot, doot, and they were just like, I think they were just the perfect solution for Kayo. So they hopped in, did their thing, and then once Kayo lost relevancy, that whole play style just kind of, it just ain't it. I don't know how else to tell you. It just ain't it. So I'm gonna put Cassai at a very respectable, very, very respectable bottom of C tier. Yeah, I like that. Worse than Dory. Yep. I hate to tell you, Cassai players, that your hero is worse than Teklovossen, but it might just be true. It might just be true. Nathan's like, that's cap, dog. Tell him, Shamir. If Cassai can find more ways to create sales swords, she might see some play. I agree, 100%. I will leave the asterisk that like all it takes is like 1 or 2 expansion slot cards, and maybe we have something, right? But just currently, it just isn't it. It just isn't it. So, we're just gonna let the Warriors do their thing, you know. Oh wait, there's one more. I forgot. There's this one. Olympia's been through some shit, right? We went from gold is the payoff to this very cool, unique, interactive card that's not really that amazing, to accidental ban to a certain archetype that the hero plays. I also think that this hero was created to solve a limited problem in the short term, and that they were going to work on the hero, you know, as we go down the line. And it's kind of showing. I mean, I just don't think there's anything that Josh or any other Warrior players have not uncovered or discovered. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure he's great in crack, shuffle, and play. I'm sure he is fantastic. Bless his heart. I'm gonna put him right there. Oh man. Oh man. Okay. Now we have to talk about one that's kind of hard, kind of tough. PvE tier? Nah, I mean, he might be in PvE tier, but I have to leave Fi as the solo PvE tier to increase the odds of Talishar changing the bot to Fi. If I put other heroes in there, it dilutes my chances. I'm really trying to make that happen, everybody. I'm really trying to make that happen. So Kayo, we all know the story, right? Solid. He can be built in a mid-range cast bones type build. It can be just balls to the wall, yellow wild ride, yellow pulping, hyper aggressive like we've seen more recently. And it's also the version of KO in which you kind of have to employ to clear the board on Enigma, right? Like you can't take time to cast bones and do all that and just to let her just establish a bunch of board state. It's not actively what you want to be doing. So it's very strong. You're disruptive. You have strength rules all. Though I'll make the counter argument that I think we're least incentivized now more than ever to put attack action cards in our arsenal. Right? Does that not make sense, chat? That like there's a lot of instances in our card or powerful non-attacks, but like attack actions, some classes and heroes do it, but like the ones that I'm trying to think of, like, you know, Dio is going to typically sit on high octane. That's like the card, right? You're not going to impact that. Vincent historically has a non-attack action in Arsenal. Enigma, you're not going to hit, so it doesn't really matter. You got a 50-50 shot against Azalea. So strength rules all I think is falling out of favor a little bit. Zen, it was really good because ninja, right? Bunch of attacks. Checks out. But he still does something that's fundamentally powerful. He's really above rate. He's really good at 2-card hands when he's on the Cast Bones build. And we don't know which version is going to fit into the meta the best, right? But I think there's a lot of people, I've seen a lot of tier lists that put him in S tier. I don't think he's that good. I think he's good. I think he's really good. But I just think that he has a couple weaknesses as far as, what there's some problems that he just doesn't solve, right? Like, this is such a scary matchup. I don't feel good about this matchup. This one is even a little iffy now. It just, I don't know. The Runeblade matchup got a little worrisome because of Face Purgatory, right? That is a I can't tell you how many times I've said, please throw a swing big at me. Please throw it. Runeblade recently, I've never been so excited to see a swing big. The fact that I can block it, make you discard, draw a card, and get a quicken token. Sheesh. I'm just saying. Please throw a swing big at Runeblade. I'm gonna leave you with that. So I think that Kayo is probably like the upper half of A. I think is a very good placement for Kayo. He does something that's fundamentally powerful, but has a couple soft spots. The Enigma matchup is not great, although some people think that it is. I think it's actually pretty bad, me personally. Although I will admit that I'm not sure if including back in Cast Bones fixes that matchup a little bit, or if it actively makes it worse, because you have to take a step off or run the risk of a scabs roll or whatever the case may be. But I think that, top of A is a pretty good spot. I saw what you said about Prism, but what about the Findel build? I'm going to be 100% real with you. I don't know what you're talking about. I'd love for you to enlighten me, though. Kayo is def unfavored into Enigma. I agree, Pierre. I agree. You should try to build Redline Terra. I don't think Kayo has ever lost to an Enigma, period. I don't know about that. All right. So let's go ahead and move into Victor. Victor's interesting because from a theoretical standpoint, he should be pretty decent. He should be solid into Dash.io. Has the window to fatigue / disrupt. He's good into Azalea. He is actually not as bad into Enigma as people make it out. It's not good, but it's like winnable. I would say Victor into Enigma is probably 70-30. Like, you can win the game if you play really tight, but like, it's an uphill battle the whole way is kind of how I would describe the matchup. And the whole matchup revolves around the Golden State, right? That's kind of the idea there. So you're really good into 2 of the 3 top 3 decks that I currently have there. As long as Kayo is not on Cast Bones, you're slightly unfavored into Kayo, I would say. But not bad. Not as bad as it used to be in like the heavy hitters meta. So like overall, Victor's like not in a horrible spot. Your Runeblade matchup with the helmet got way worse. Like astronomically worse because you have like a more efficient aggro deck than Kayo, but we have the same flesh bag situation where you have to play your pummel from Arsenal if you're trying to, or you have to bait it out basically. Now, granted, we have to have the attack non-attack combination. That is a requirement. We can't just do it on demand, but we draw a card, so that and you don't get that card back. You literally just discard it, which is pretty impactful. So do not sleep on that. So I'm gonna say that he from a theoretical standpoint, he should be in like an okay position. But I think that it's going to get worse by the day. So like if I had to imagine it, if I had placed him like today, it would be like right here. But I think by the time it like the season the ProQuest season closes, he's probably gonna be toward like the lower end of A. Victor historically has always done really well at ProQuest events. And that's mainly got to do with the fact that, they're not hyper competitive events. And Clash is a great way to skill gap people, plain and simple, right? If you understand that there's a lot of ways where you can kind of remove Victor's ability to extract a lot of value, and you don't leverage those opportunities, he can be one of the best decks in the game. But he does have a lot of those windows where if you really know how to play against him, you can really leverage that. So I think he's really well positioned. We might put him above Viserai as just like an average between the two spaces. I think he's in a decent spot. I'm not hating on him. It's just not great though, because I think Dash.io might be able to come up with a solution, although it could get iffy. Chain disruption, you could probably get, yeah, you're probably there. Yeah, I would say, yeah, I would say there. That'd be my placement. Okay. It depends on the version of Viserai. I'll put it that way. So we have Zen. Zen obviously was the most affected by the bans. And immediately after the bans, everybody came to the conclusion that he was just unplayable, complete, just dog water. I don't think he's that bad. Now, any ninja players, don't let me get your hopes up. I don't think he's that good, but he's not like bad. Like he does a thing. He's an aggro deck that can block pretty decently. He can get a lot of value out of his blues. He has a good suite of armor that's remained unchanged. He just lost most of his explosiveness, right? And he still has a tutor effect. So this hero is not gone. He's not gone. Is he gonna make up a lot less than meta? 100%. So if I had to place Zen, it's tough, because it's really tough because he does good output. Like he can average 15 value a turn offensively, has a good suite of armor. Don't forget his ability to make the Zen state token to really kind of mess with the the rune chant stuff. But the problem with that is you can't prevent Vinny's. That's the one you want to be preventing. And Viserai, he may just beat Viserai if he does the whole rune chant build up situation. But like, sure, you got that one. Enigma matchup got a lot weaker. It's still probably favored, but nowhere near as much. And you're going to get outraced by Dio. You're going to be bad into Azalea because you lose your window pushes. And yeah, I think he goes to the top of C. Like, he's solid. Like, he does a thing. He just doesn't do it as good now. He just doesn't do it as good. He could be B minus Taylor. I could get on board with that. I really could. I'm going to be 100% honest with you, Taylor. The reason I put him in that spot specifically was to even this up. And so if it was just the other way around, he would have went right there. So I 100% agree with you that it could be B minus. I just like things even. And if it goes back out of whack, I'll just move him. I'll move him back. And he might end up B minus. I heard Zen is better Katsu. You don't say. You don't say. Okay, let's talk about New. New suffered from the classic situation of, her food got, taken away from her basically with the Zen ban, where she was really good into that. I think New is probably fine into Dio, awful into Enigma, and then pretty okay into the rest, right? Like, you got some good ones, you got some bad ones, and so forth, right? Like, basically averages out. But really good Dio matchup is really what I want to focus on, and why I think that it's an extremely valid reason to play New. And I think New's playability in the upcoming meta is literally going to come down to, is New better against Io or is Azuri? And I don't know 100% which one's the correct answer. I just know that the one that wins that argument, or it could also be a little bit on the flip side of which one's not as bad into Enigma. Those two questions are going to dictate which one takes hold of their assassin spot in the meta. So both have the possibility of doing it. I just think that New has a slightly better card pool, aka armor, and also a little bit more hand tailored disruption, which I think is extremely valuable. So I'm definitely going to put New above Azuri, 100%. Not even a question. I'm just not entirely sure how much. How much. I really like the fact that she's really good into Io. She's good into Azalea. Suffers here, but like 50-50 here. Okay here. Actually kind of bad into Vinny. You're good here. You're, depending on how the Vis deck is built, the hand disruption can absolutely destroy him. So you actually, for most builds, you're probably okay. So I think New keeps her spot close to the top. I think she's at the top of A tier, close to it. I really think that she's still something that's really relevant. I don't think she's going anywhere. And yeah, I think she solves a purpose. Any deck that can actively play blue cards out and get an extreme amount of value, it's going to be a good deck. Okay. Okay. Here we go. You ready, chat? We have the new heroes. This is the hardest part. We gotta slow it down. Okay, we gotta go in on these, because I I gotta talk through it. Because things can change quickly. And if they do change, I want to try and equip you with my thought process on like how you can kind of change it up as it changes. Okay. On to the news. Slap them all in S. I don't know about that. Whoa. Time out. Time out. Okay. Start with Acilia. Acilia. This deck, or hero, will take you on a roller coaster. It might not be one you enjoy, but I promise you, have you ever been playing a video game and you're like on that really intense moment and then your power just cuts out? That's what Acilia can really leave you feeling like sometimes. Like I played Runeblade for over 3 years, almost 4 years now. I've been playing Runeblade. And I've seen some Acilia bricks. Like, I would be begging to make a rune chant and swing Rosetta Thorn is all I'm saying. I would be begging. Chat, this hero just isn't it until proven otherwise. It's in that situation where like Betsy was and Teklovossen were when they came out, and it was like, okay, it's not enough. And like, can somebody put together a combination, right? In chat, we've seen a whole bunch of references to counter blessings and everything, right? And actually, the best hero that can use that card is the one that should never fucking use that card. The fact that Acilia can discard the blue ones and then you actively resolve all the red ones and some of the yellow ones is like really fucking strong, right? Because it's basically a linear scale on the value of count your blessing, but you're just chopping off the first half of it, which is from a theory basis very strong. But the problem is that the hero doesn't want to gain life. So it's like good, but it's not at all what he wants to be doing. Which that's just something that Taylor built, and I found it extremely funny. And it was definitely meme worthy. But I think this hero just has burden of proof on him to basically prove himself, because I haven't seen it. I haven't known. And let's say that he does do the thing, right? And he does the thing very consistently or whatever. And then somebody throws a weakest link at him. His plan is just whatever his plan ends up to be, whatever card combination connects to create the deck that would be a good Acilia deck. If it ever becomes more than 5% of the meta, you're going to get hit with a weakest link, and then you're going to go get your Dash IO deck or Enigma deck or whatever, because it's just going to feel awful because you're playing Wizard. You don't have that fridge to lean on. Like, everyone just hurts. It just hurts. Now, I will say, it seems like a very fun hero to play, because it actually, unironically, plays a lot like Runeblade. I've mentioned that it bricks a lot and stuff like that. It's actually pretty funny. But Acilia, basically, yeah, I mean, it plays just like Runeblade. You know, you have a bunch of attacks or non-attacks, if you will, and then you end with, so you have like a hard ratio that you have to abide by with like lightning and then sigil or attacks, non-attack, that kind of situation. So very Runeblade like, very fun to play, but just don't see it right now. I hope one day I can be proved wrong. I really look forward to it, but where things currently stand, maybe he needed some of the books that were banned. I don't know, but I just don't see it, chat. I just don't see it. So I gotta put Ailio in C tier. He's not that bad, right? Probably below Prism. I'd put him right at the smack middle of C. Is kind of where I'm thinking for Ailio. Not horrendous, right? Like not actively avoiding, but nobody's gonna sideboard hate against you, I guess, is one thing you get to look forward to. It was designed with the books in mind, and banning wasn't set. I mean, that's a good theory. That's actually a really good theory. Yep, that makes perfect sense. Because right now it does not seem like enough. It literally does not. I don't know how else to say it. So now let's talk about who should we do next. Let's go lightning earth. Yeah, we'll do it how we have it. Verdance. Okay. Verdance, we know about the combo, the rampant growth, all that fun stuff. It is powerful. Don't get me wrong. It does a thing. Does the combo. The one thing that I would say is that so it's actually very interesting, but like her and Florian are basically trying to do the exact same thing, just different ways. And I'll explain my thought process. Basically, Verdance is trying to do like hyper turtle shit setup and then like a really big combo. Whereas Florian's just trying to like mid-range the game down and then maybe close the game out with a combo. And I actively want to, in this meta specifically, with the amount of disruption that's both interactive and non-interactive, I want to rely on combos the least amount possible. The combo is great. Don't get me wrong. It is astronomically good. However, I don't want to rely on it. I don't want to have to do it. And I think for Verdance to truly close the game out, she has to do it. Now, does she need all the health pots, and does she have to like go overboard with it? Of course not. You could like play some mind warps, walk the life total down, disrupt, play your tillings and your plow unders and your felling the crowns and stuff like that. Also, since I just mentioned those cards, I never for a million years thought that Plow Under would be a better card than Felling the Crown. And I am here to tell you that it just is. I I think Plow Under in this meta, with how many cards actively are trying to leverage the arsenal, I actually think Plow Under is better than Felling. I never thought I'd say that, but I really do believe it. You don't have to rely on the combo at all. I know you don't have to, but depending on how the opponent is playing against her, there comes a point in a lot of her matchups where she has to make the decision earlier rather than later on whether she's going to go for it. And it almost is, but 8 damage hurt. It is more damage, right? But I'm telling you, just removing that arsenal is It is insane. It is insane. So as far as Verdance, I think she does something that's good. It's like powerful. It's like really good. I just don't know if I mean, like, let's run it through. I think Dash.io is just going to run her over. She's not going to have the equipment suite to fatigue like Florian maybe can. Maybe. And I think at the beginning she's going to be hyper unfavored into Enigma, but it could get a lot better, much how like the Kano matchup got, where it was like, oh, we're supposed to waning moon kind of situation. Also, I just want to do a little timeout on the stream real quick. We just hit 352 viewers. Previous record was 350. And I just want to say thank you all for joining me. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot. Thank you for your time. And yeah, I just wanted to pause and say that real quick. I really do appreciate it. Breaking records left and right. I really do appreciate it. So maybe she can, like Chad is saying, maybe she can fatigue Dash.io. I don't think she can currently with what I've seen. I could be wrong, but from what I've seen, I really don't think she has what it takes to fatigue Dash.io. And I think Dash.io is going to be just, you know, I think she does enough damage to really keep Verdance on her toes, make her, really have to lean on. And then also, let's not forget about Reaping Blade. Reaping Blade is really like, it's a problem. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to blow it out of proportion. It's not a problem that can not be solved. Really tight play where you maneuver under. Like, there's a lot of situations where Reaping Blade Earth Mirrors should literally just end in a draw where nobody takes game action for 3 turns or whatever the ruling is. If you play it at like peak efficiency or however you want to put it, if you're trying to increase your chances of winning as much as possible. And so I think I think she has potential for like mid A is where I initially want to place her based on like power level, what she can do, what she has access to. But I think there's a couple things holding her back. I don't think the Enigma matchup is going to be great. I don't think that you're going to be able to fatigue Dash.io once the Dash.io players have time to, combat that strategy. So I think her placement currently is going to be, I think it's either top of B or bottom of A. Yeah. Top of B or bottom of A. And is she better than Viserai? Or is she as good as Viserai? Is she better than Levia? Do I want to see new? Probably don't mind seeing new as Verdance. Azalea is kind of iffy. Not gonna lie. Iffy. I think she goes top of B. Because these 3 matchups are not where I want it to be. I think you're fine here. I think you're fine here. You're probably actually okay here. You're definitely fine here. But like these 3 specifically don't seem like it's where you want it to be. Chat. Almost 380? Okay. Okay. I see you. So I think because of the Reaping Blades specifically, and I want to take a second. I think that I'm actually very interested to hear either Brian's take on it, but what I've found is Reaping Blade as a card creates a lot of, I don't know how I want to say it, non-interactive game states in Earth Mirror specifically, to the point to where it's like it's kind of toxic. If I'm being 100% honest, if I'm being 100% honest, wouldn't she rock Azalea? I don't know. Oh, it peaked at 422. Holy shit! I guess mine doesn't update that fast. 422. Chat. Where's the champagne? That's what I'm saying. But I really do appreciate all of you being here. I really do appreciate it. I really do. Do you think there's a build to which you can effectively use Verdant Staff instead of relying on Aethertide? I think Aethertide is the way to go. Me personally. Reap what you said. Where's Ira? So this tier list is just for the ProQuest season, and Ira will not be playable during the ProQuest season. So I've elected to leave her off. At the conclusion, I'm more than happy to discuss where she might land. At the conclusion, after we get all the heroes done, I'm more than happy to discuss it, though. I just don't want to put it on the picture. Okay. So, I think Verdance is like top of B, but if you said bottom of A, I wouldn't hate it. Doesn't she come out at Worlds? Like, literally? November 2nd. Yeah, like right after Worlds. So that's when Ira actually releases. So yeah, I'll do it for the Worlds tier list, of course. We'll definitely do one for that. Game recognizes game. All right. So let's go ahead and talk Aurora. Aurora, I'm going to be 100% honest. Aurora reminds me so much of the hero behind me. I enjoy playing this hero so incredibly much. It's fun. It's explosive. There's that high risk where you get put in those spots and you need to balance on whether you need to make a rune chant and send the extra damage to maybe get a card, or carry over the embodiment to prevent the brick the next turn. There's so many of those like Tome of Harvest situations of like, do I arsenal this card even though I can play it now? You know, where that I experienced in Briar and what I ultimately just thoroughly enjoyed. And it's like it plays a lot like that. It really does. And it's a lot of fun to play. It's a powerful hero. It does a powerful thing. It has one of the I want to word this the correct way, but it has the most unique toolkit accessible to Rune Blades, aka Warmongers, right? That Rune Blades never been able to lean on. right? So just opening up sideboard possibilities. I showcased that in my show match against Blue Pitch, where, exactly, Electric Somersault is just so much fun. She won't be fatiguing Oldham. We can't have everything. But the hero is so much fun to play. I don't care if you like. I don't care if you plan on like pursuing this deck competitively, or if you even like Runeblade at all, or it's like not your type. I beg you to get either my list or Pudding's list or some other list you find and play it on Talishar a couple times. I'm telling you, it's a blast. It is an absolute blast. It kind of is Purple Fi. I like that. It's definitely not PvE. I'll tell you that much. It's definitely not PvE. So yeah, man, I really enjoy playing the hero. She's very powerful. Enough about the nostalgia and the play style. Let's talk about competitive viability for Aurora. So it's very easy to get 15 to 16 value out of her hand offensively very routinely. There are some ratios that you have to hard manage. You have to be very careful as you include the amount of non-attack actions into your list. There hits a critical point to where you really just start adding cards that really aren't that good for not really that good of a purpose. And you really start it's a deck where when you're deck building, you have to really ask yourself why this card exists. And if it's not there for a really good reason, it needs to get out and get out very quickly, because you do run a higher attack ratio historically than Runeblade. I think most lists are sitting at between 33 and 37 attack action cards, and then the other half is usually split right down the middle between instants and non-attacks, relatively. And so that opens you up to a lot of possibilities, right? Like you're always going to draw an attack. That's never the problem. But are you going to have to go again? So you have to have things that supplement the situations that you don't have go again. And it is a balancing act. It's a very hard deck building puzzle. But once we get the refined version, which hopefully I can help create in some way, shape, form, or fashion, then I think she has the potential to really do it. Can she overcome heavy fatigue? Is what chat said. I think the answer is yes. You obviously have the Arc Lightning, Flicker Wisp combination. You can even go as far as Sting of Sorcery. However, chat, I do not recommend that. I think Sting of Sorcery is a hard trap in Aurora specifically, because the theory would be Sting of Sorcery or Flicker Wisp, Sting of Sorcery, and then Arc Lightning. But you've already played 3 cards out, so you can only play so many attack actions to follow, which means you're not actually going to get that much value out of Sting of Sorcery. So Flicker Wisp, Arc Lightning, you get the okay thumbs up. Sting of Sorcery, you overcooked it. And just like Sam said in the chat, a lot of skill expression, a ton of skill expression. And I think she could do it. I think there are some weaknesses. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think that she's going to have she does have enough of an armor suite to overcome disruption a couple of times. She's going to run into a problem where she has to overcome that disruption a lot, right? Although the way that her hands align, I'm going to say something that might be a little bit of a hot take, but she actually plays into Assassin really well, because historically, we'll take Viserai for an example. with the play pattern of blue, mauve, into attack, sword swing. If assassin could reach into your hand and take your blue, you had a non-functioning turn. I'd make the argument that most Aurora hands, there's not a singular card that you can take from her hand to make it non-functional. I would say that, probably about 60 to 70% of her hands, you could remove a card and her easily be able to produce 8 to 9 damage out of it, right? With it just being something as simple as like a Arcanic Shockwave Fuse Lightning Press, right? Like that. That right there is 8 damage on 2 cards. Like ripping one card, she doesn't scale. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a good way, as in you don't need a lot to do a lot. So yes, she's very disruptible. She's very bad at blocking. There's no hiding that. But at the end of the day, does she really give a shit? That's the question that you have to answer. And it's to my belief that I don't think she does. I do not think that she gives a shit. I think you're gonna play a race face or weakest link, and when it counts, you're gonna get the armor, and when it doesn't, I think you're going to be able to produce more value to offset that disruption than the opponents expect. Simple as that. And you may throw it and not even matter. So that's a gamble that you're gonna have to take. And so I think she's a very solid deck. I think she plays a very important role in this meta. A very important role. But how good is she? I think she's good, chat. Like, this was the early builds of the Rune Blades, right? But as far as from like a tempo and aggressive stance, the one deck that could actually go like toe to toe with Dash.io was Aurora. Basically, it created a lot of game states where, like, if they didn't have like the turn, I won the game. Now the deck's very consistent on the Dash.io's side of things, and she can get there fairly often, but when she doesn't, it's a pretty smooth game. And she's a natural counter for Enigma. She's not that bad into Azalea. Now that I talk about it, when I make these tier lists, I always make one beforehand just to kind of give myself an idea of where I think everything is. I don't always follow it 100% to a T. I always like pivot as I'm talking to myself and coming up with new thoughts and things like that. I placed Aurora like here on the other one. I'm gonna be honest with you, chat. I don't think that's right. You're good at, you're okay. You're like 50-50-ish into IO. Maybe slightly less. I think there is a build out there that is good into Enigma. You might have to like build for consistency and things like that, but it's there. I think you have some rose-tinted glasses. Aurora is strong, but she doesn't compare to Dash.io in my opinion. I mean, she's definitely not like at her level. But I think she's really good. I think I would rather play her than Kayo. I think I would rather play her than New. Yeah. Now am I reconsidering Enigma spot? I'm not. I am not. And the reason for that is there's a world where Enigma can actually fatigue Dash.io. Enigma is into Azalea and into this. But once you get here, other than Vinny, it's like, man, you're winning. Like, you are winning, man. So I'm not budging on Enigma. I think Enigma's probably gonna end up at the bottom of, the bottom of it. But like, she's good. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with my gut. I originally placed her about here, but I think she could do it, chat. I think she could do it. I think she could do it. Okay. We got our last one. We got Florian. Now, I, as a content creator, like to think that I produce competitive oriented content. That's who I'm trying. I'm trying to, you know, just help players. That's kind of my goal on whether how they think about the game or how they, selections they make or play lines with the learning curve series, which I need to make another episode for. And it's important for content creators to admit when they're flat out wrong. And this is one of those occasions. During the last stream, I presented an OTK deck, which was fine. It was solid. The problem is I don't think OTK is the way to play the hero. And I've learned that. So I do apologize if I steered anybody down the road of OTK with the hero. I'm not saying it's a horrible way to play the game, but it's not the optimal way. I can fairly confidently say that. And I was wrong. It was as simple as that. I was 100% absolutely, unequivocally incorrect. And the optimal way to play Florian is mid-range. This mid-range backup combo style deck. Do I have a list to give to you today? I do not. But if you swing by the stream next week, I'll probably have something cooked up for you. And so Florian's a very interesting deck to talk about because he can do so many things. I mean, like, he could do so many things. Pre-IO starter, do you think Enigma is best deck in format? I do, 100%. Boo, this guy is rationally thinking and being a human. Do the right thing, double down on being wrong. Sometimes it feels like that's a little bit more fun. So he could do so many things, right? So many things. And at the end of the day, he has the disruption that -IO does not want to see. He has the defensive capabilities, the armor suite, and the disruption that Azalea doesn't want to see. He has disruption that Aurora doesn't want to see, although Aurora can usually just run him the fuck over, if we're being 100% honest. But he can go toe-to-toe with New easily. I think he's really good in the KO. I think if you know what Vinny is trying, if you know Vincent in and out and you're playing as Florian, I think Florian's solid into Vinny. I'm not going to say like super favorite, but like maybe slightly favorite. Victor? That's a joke. Germinate. And then you have Reaping Blade to gain the edge in the Earth Mirror. So in most of these decks, you are not really worried. You're just not. You're just not worried yet. So you have the disruption. The armor suite is the Earth chess piece. Let's run over his armor suite real quick, chat. Earth chess piece. That thing can get 5 to 6 to 7 value easy, depending on how wide and how valuable the embodiment is and whatnot. But very easily gets to 6 value. No problem. Then you have Space Purgatory. And I've talked about that piece of equipment more than I probably should have. But it's absolutely insane. Then you have the boots that prevent 2. So it's Spell Void, it's whatever, cover up breakpoints. It's literally whatever you need it to be. Fill your grave for Decompose. Gotcha. Grasp of the Arknight. Make 2 Rune Chance Swing Reaping Blade on 1 card. All you Guardian players, have you ever tried hammering for 5 with split damage? Just a thought. Just a thought. I think the deck does something very fundamentally powerful. The problem with Florian that he absolutely has to solve is 2 things. Aurora, and more importantly, Enigma. I think Enigma is going to give you an issue. But I'm not going to tell you how to solve that problem. But I'll give you a hint. It's, if you go back to my first episode of Learning Curves, I talk about extenders and what purpose they serve and how you should utilize them and when you shouldn't and things like that. And I think extenders, I think Florian's toolkit and the cards he has access to, there's a great and easy way to include extenders into Florian. Is it enough? I don't know. I do not know the answer to that question. I don't. But if it is, it's S tier. Easily. If it's not, it's a solid A, right? Like you're going to lose the Enigma matchup. That's fine. Go about your day, right? So I think what we're going to do solely because the Cassai players think they play a good hero, what we're going to do is put Cassai there, put Kano there, put Viserai there, which makes a real clean line to put him in A tier. And we can do that because of the Cassai players. So shout out to them. Thank you for that. So now we have space for Florian. The question is where? And it's a difficult question to answer. He's definitely better than Victor. I don't think there's a question there. I told you at the beginning when I went over Vinny that she might not be the best room blade, and it's definitely because of Aurora, but it might also be because of Florian. I think that Florian is going to land smack dab in the middle of A tier. However, this is coming with the asterisk of the fact that I'm not entirely sold that he's going to be able to solve the Enigma matchup. I don't think he will be. However, if he does, he's S tier. No questions. This is a complete win. You think he can run CMH effectively? I think he might be able to. Where can I find that mid-range list for my wife? I'm going to start working on one, and hopefully I can get something out. I think it's a great tool. Do you think he should run the aura that makes embodiment of earth as long as you decompose each turn? I don't think he should. I'm not a huge fan of that card. If you're on like some hyper fatigue one, well, you can't even do that, right? Because if you're fatiguing, you want to block with all the cards in your hand. But to decompose defensively, there's only 9 cards that do that. So you're basically saying this is going to go away for no value if I don't draw the Carapace. And I don't like that. I'm not a fan. So I think this is where I would put the tier. Man. Chat, we got 3 Room Blades in A tier. And then 1 only in B tier because of the Cassai players. What a world. What a world. If it wasn't for the Cassai players, we'd have 4 Room Blades in A tier. We almost did it, chat. When did Cassai snub Nathan? I don't know. Ever since the cash-in ban, Cassai players, they've been a little spicy. I'm watching. I'm always watching. I'm always watching. Oh yeah, it's not your turn. The D-Rec doesn't even work. So yeah, you actively have to send damage, which means you're not blocking. Have you ever heard of bias, Nathan? I mean, have you ever seen the card Phase Purgatory? Have you ever seen that one? I'm just saying. But so that's a good point. Like that's a scary amount of Room Blades for Enigma, right? But like I don't think she's that scared to see this one. Call me crazy. Chat might be a hot take, but I think Viserai is not a like if I'm playing Viserai, I don't want to play against Enigma. That matchup's kind of scary if I'm being 100% honest. So like half of them she's bad into, half of them she's good into. Right? And Vinny's only good into Enigma if the Vinny player is like good, right? I think it's very easy for the Enigma player to skill gap the Vinny player if they haven't been playing the hero a decent amount. What is this perfect split? Well, you know, we got to do it that way. Bias is an expansion slot set of assassin equipment. That's a good one. A whole set. Not only that, but the whole set of illusionist equipment too. Where does Dio land before the armory deck? Probably like B tier. I'm telling you, that card. I'm telling you. I'm telling you, chat. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Yeah, if Dash.io didn't have the armory deck, she'd probably be like right here. Like the middle of B. But those two cards that she's getting, really cerebellum. But the other one's like, cool, it's another Zero for 60. With an upside if it's boosted. Does this mean that Ira is PvE tier to keep it symmetrical? No. And that's why we can't include her in the picture. That is the exact reason why we can't include her. It's because I be liking my symmetry, you know? So I did promise somebody that I would discuss Ira after and where this is a long way down the line. Let's not take everything I'm saying without, you know. I don't care how you cut it. She's not going to be that good into Enigma. She's going to be like hot dog water, like bad. I don't care if you have your whole Kadachi 2 for 7 or Kadachi 1 for 6 deck, and then you have like 10 cards dedicated to aggression. It ain't enough. All right, I'm gonna let you know now. Don't even gotta test it. Just take my word for it. Okay. This is gonna be solid. You're gonna have enough D reacts that you're probably gonna be able to handle this, and you're gonna be able to disrupt with Warmongers, CNCs, stuff like that. CNCs with breakpoints. And Aurora, you're going to be able to comfortably cover up those breakpoints with flick flacks and things of that nature. So I don't think it's going to be a great matchup, but I think it'll be close to 50-50. I think that's fair. I think you're going to be able to quickly outvalue New because you have the defensive tools to not be disrupted, and you just do 2-card hands really, really well. Same thing for Kayo. I think you're going to be able to play his game plan a little bit better than he will because you can have those breakpoints that he simply sometimes does have, but he also has a lot more inconsistency than you will. I think the Earth Heroes are just going to destroy you. I mean, it's not even going to be close. They're actually just going to destroy you. Vanny has a lot of unpreventable damage, although breakpoints or something. I don't know about that one. I would say that under the current situation, I would probably put Ira bottom of A, top of B ish. Like, she's going to do a thing. Probably top of B, for being honest. Yeah, top of B. That's probably where I would put, like, she's going to do a thing. I don't know if the thing's good enough. PvE isn't the welcome format. Ira is the perfect PvE hero. It teaches both players and opponents how to play fast. I mean, just think about if you extend the game 10 turns. Think about how good old-fashioned Dash is with Teklo Pounder. Starting with, you get 6 value, right? You start with your Teklo Pounder, and you get 6 value from your hero ability, period. No matter, unless they blow it up or something. But Ira can like easily get 9, 10. The weakness that she's gonna have is she's not gonna be able to do anything like explosive unless you build it into it. And that might be the part that you kind of have to problem solve. I'm not entirely sure that she's going to be able to to solve that problem. Not sure she's going to be able to close those games out. where she really needs to. So I think somebody in chat said we got over 420 people during the stream at one time. I'm blown away. I really do appreciate it. I hope that the content that I make provides you value, whether it be me entertaining you by talking shit about Cassai or just teaching you something about the game or helping you look at things a different way, a unique way. Not always the right way, just like the Florian situation. I'm wrong sometimes. I never claim to have all the answers. All I guarantee with the information that I provide is I've thought a lot about it. I'm very analytical, and I put a lot of work into it. I don't just hop on these streams and maybe that's why 420 people stop by, right? Is because I really just try to put a lot of effort and not just move pictures around and everything, but I put a lot of effort into all of these, and I hope you gain it something from it, whether it be what to add in your sideboard for this ProQuest season that I hope you enjoy. Whether it be what hero you play next. I beg you to consider other things than just my tier list on which hero to play, but maybe it's a starting point. Maybe my little talk about Aurora, just say, hey, I'll try it, and then maybe you really enjoy it and you take off with it. Like, that's awesome, right? Or maybe me shit talking Kassai, you're like, oh, I can't be that bad. And then maybe you enjoy it. I don't know. Hopefully not, but I really do appreciate everybody being here. I really do. Means a lot. Means a lot. What's up, Sam? Good to see you. And and you're usually mostly right. I mean, I try to be, right? I'm not always right, but I will say one little achievement that I had was when Zen first came out, before Part the Misfell came out, like literally the week before, about the same time relative to Rosetta. Katsu had just like it was right after the release of the set. Katsu had just like top aided a PTI event or something, and it was like the first event in Canada, I believe. And everybody was like, "Yeah, Katsu's the better ninja," and I went balls to the walls. I was like, I opened up this tier list. I was like, look, guys, there's zero reason to play Katsu, like zero, and I put Zen straight to the top, best deck in the format, and I think we can say that was pretty good. That was pretty good. Also, I hope that everybody enjoys the meta that's coming up. I I'm gonna leave you with this, and that is, this is going to be a meta that's going to require you to come up with a lot of solutions. I'm telling you now, it's not going to be. Not every deck is going to be able to come to the table with, I'm going to present this situation. You better have the answer. There's not a lot of decks that are going to be able to do that. AKA, I think it's just the top two. I think everybody else is going to have a lot of answers, and they're going to be answers that are not, they're not going to be typical. Like I said earlier, I think there's going to be a lot of decks that are going to have to dedicate 9 sideboard slots to like keep up with the pressure against Enigma, to be able to just keep applying that pressure to remove the board state or clear it or make it where it never gets established. I think we're going to, which is 9 sideboard slots. I mean, we haven't seen that since like OG Prism and Bravo kind of days, right? I guess transformative sideboards and Dash is kind of a good example of that. But that kind of played into several matches where this will literally just be one, more than likely. I guess maybe into the Earth Heroes too. So I guess the whole switchboard style, I think, will become meta. I think every deck will establish a switchboard if they're not naturally an aggro deck. And We desperately need CC to be good again. I see no reason why this wouldn't be. The only thing that concerns me, for being 100% honest, is the Earth Mirror match. I kind of hinted at that with Reaping Blade. It's not a matchup that I enjoy. In Sealed, it's okay because everybody doesn't have the degenerate tools that they have access to in CC. And it's not that anything's broken or unbalanced. It just creates. It's like the Fatigue Oldham Mirror match is the closest thing I'd compare it to, and it just. But there's some interesting stuff where you can like use Plow Under to mess up their pitch stack, and there's like a lot of unique things where I think people are going to be able to gain little bits of skill advantage and skill gap their opponents, and really let the best people perform well. So once again, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. Hope everybody had fun, except for the Katsu fans and the Cassai fans. Probably not fun for them. But yeah, I enjoyed myself. I can guarantee that. Yeah, thank you all for joining me, and I'll be back next week. I'm not sure yet. I'm sure we'll be doing something with the Rune Blades. I owe you a mid-range Florian list. We'll probably whip that up, and then maybe we'll start getting into some gameplay. And yeah, because all the cards are programmed now. If anybody knows anybody that deals with Talishar, let's get the Phi thing done. Let's get the bot to actually be the Phi hero. I'm going to keep pushing that. You guys got to help me. Everybody's got to help me. Thank you all for joining me. Really do appreciate it. Have a good rest of your night, and have a good weekend as well. Take care, everybody.